Mark Levin, weekdays 6 till 9 p.m. on Washington's Mall, WMAL, where Washington comes to talk.
So just as I will take this case to Congress, I will also deliver this message to the world. While the UN investigation has some time to report on its findings, we will insist that an atrocity committed with chemical weapons is not simply investigated, it must be confronted.
It must be confronted. Well, you hadn't confronted it before, Mr. President. I don't understand. There have been thousands of deaths. Now it must be confronted? I'm Dan Bongino. You're listening to WMAL. I'm here with you till 7 p. 888-630-9625. We've been talking Syria, and it has been an unbelievable show because we've had guests all across the spectrum. I think my views are pretty clear. If you've been listening, I tend to align with the libertarian wing of the party that, you know, listen, folks, it's a humanitarian tragedy. Absolutely no doubt about that, okay? No doubt. Point taken. Accepted. The question is are we creating another humanitarian tragedy by engaging in a conflict where there's no clear endgame? Folks, these are our kids. You can't just say, as the President of the United States, that, well, you know, we're going to bring an aircraft carrier over into the region, and we may potentially lob a few missiles, but don't worry, nobody's going to be in danger because there's no boots on the ground. No, that's not the case. You don't get to do that. They're not your kids. They're ours. Yours aren't old enough yet. I'm sorry, but after years and years of seemingly endless military action overseas and outcomes that have not been desirable, don't you owe us a little bit more than this? It must be confronted. I mean, what is the specific United States security interest in this? What is it? I mean, the real meat and potatoes. I'm not saying humanitarian aid is not an option. That's not what I'm saying. But, folks, do you have an end game? Are you just playing chess? Are you just guessing, Mr. President? I mean, I brought this up with KT McFarland and Mario Mancuso we just had on. What's the potential here for a larger proxy war if we get involved? What if the attack doesn't go as planned? Have we thought this through, or is this just all politics? I mean, is a focus group dictating our international foreign policy? Here's an even better question. Do we even have a foreign policy right now? What is it? We didn't get involved in the Iranian Revolution, but now we're going to get involved in the Syrian war, where there's no architecture at all for a democratic government to take hold. Unlike in Egypt, where we got involved, and ironically, even with a relatively robust military, it still collapsed and didn't end up as we intended. All right, we got a great guest with us here. I'm really looking forward to this. We have my friend and a fantastic congressman from Texas, Representative Louie Gohmert, who, by the way, did an incredible job filling in for Sean Hannity last week. I listened to the whole show. Well done, sir.
Wow, thank you. You really put your credibility on the line by saying that was a fantastic congressman. So thank you for taking that kind of risk.
You got the gift. You got the gift. You were funny. You broke it up with some good personal stories from your time as a judge. I thought it was really a terrific job and very well done. And I really appreciate you coming on today. Again, I got to imagine.
I appreciate the job you're doing because you know, the scenario questions you just ask are critical questions that we need to be asking. I mean, since the President and Congress all take an oath that is responsible for the United States, not Syria. And I keep, I was in the Army, as you know, back in 78, 82, and 70, when and you mentioned we didn't get involved in the revolution in Iran. That's the attempted revolution where the people were really trying to oust the radical Islamists in charge, and Khomeini and Ahmadinejad. But when Carter was president, he took an active role in pushing for the removal of the Shah. He didn't like the Shah, thought the Shah was a bad man. Well, we feel the same thing about Assad. He's apparently not a good man. He's backed by Iran. He's backed by Hezbollah. But he is fighting against the very people that this administration said they were at war with. They're backed by Al-Qaeda. Maybe originally it was more peace-loving people, but we didn't help then, and so the Al-Qaeda-backed rebels are really who's in charge. With due deference to the senator from Arizona saying to the contrary. Of course, he was wrong about us going into Libya too. We shouldn't have done that. So anyway, the president's saying we need to attack, and we have high confidence. Those two words, high confidence, that it's the right thing to do. Are you kidding me? Because we know people are going to get killed when we start launching missiles. And you have to consider, well, should I get congressional support? Well, how would we look at it if some other country brought ships off our shore and started lobbing missiles into the United States? We take that as an act of war.
Right.
Well, if you are going to take action that we would consider an act of war if done on us, with deference to what Jesus said, do unto others, well, he really should get congressional approval, number one, so I'm glad he's stopping to do that. And number two, what is the end game? And this is what you keep getting at. Are we going to get Israelis killed? Apparently, they say they're going to attack Israel. Apparently, they were ready to do it. So what is the good of killing people? We don't know who's killed. We said the UN was... their findings supported ours. When we heard from the UN spokesman today, they're still investigating. Now they've gotten back and they're reviewing materials. They're doing analysis. Really? You're ready to kill people and get our allies killed based on high confidence? That's good enough for you? It sure wasn't good enough for you to go after Osama bin Laden. He had to be 100% sure before he'd go after Osama.
Right.
I don't know. I'm glad he's backed off. I think that was a smart thing to do. I just can't figure out our national interest, our national security interest, in attacking either side in basically a boiled-down Sunni versus Shia, Al-Qaeda versus Hezbollah type fight. I don't see it.
We're talking to Representative Louie Gohmert, who represents the 1st District of Texas. And by the way, I'm looking at your Twitter feed, and I want to applaud you for joining us in the Remember the Benghazi 4 twibbon on there. So, folks, give you that a look as well. I know you've been an advocate for this issue, sir, so thank you for your voice on that. I deeply appreciate it personally.
No, I appreciate y'all pushing and taking such a strong lead.
Yeah.
But I don't know. You've asked some great questions, and I don't see that we have the answers yet. Yeah. And we got to remember, too, that when this administration says, our intelligence findings support our position, these are the same folks that said that about 9/11 2012 attack and killing our ambassador and 3 others, that was all based on a video, based on our intelligence analysis. Right. And then we found out, actually, that wasn't true. And you may have talked about the fact that there were purported intelligence agents leaking this week. Hey, they're saying this is from intelligence. This isn't from us. This isn't what we think. I think that's got to be looked into as well. Is this really what our intelligence community thinks, or is this another all based on the video type representation?
We're talking to Representative Louie Gohmert, representing the citizens of Texas 1. You can follow him on Twitter at Rep. Louie Gohmert with an H, Gohmert. Sir, I had a question for you. We opened up with a soundbite here where the president says, so I will take this case to Congress, and basically says that it must be confronted, talking about the Syrian threat. Now, my question to you is, this is not a new problem, the Syrian problem. I think we can all agree on that. You being a member of Congress, I'd like your perspective inside the corroded D.C. bubble there. Has he ever taken this problem to you before, or is this just a political calculation on his part to punt the football?
I think this, and I think you nailed it with the second. This is kind of a punt the football situation because he's heard from enough Democrats and enough Republicans both saying, this isn't a good idea. This really isn't a good idea. How does this help our national interest? Because we all, our oath is supposed to, defend the same thing. So, I think this is a punting, and of course it will end up being a distraction away from the overall effort in September to defund Obamacare.
Right. Well, as we know, nothing this administration does, sir, is political. I say that with a wink and a nod and with the thickest sarcasm known to man. I've got just a minute left with you. We're talking to Representative Louie Gohmert, representing the citizens of Texas 1. My final question, you're out of session right now, correct? You're out there gripping and grinning and talking to your constituents.
This is a time I love because people that had not been listening to their constituents end up listening to constituents, and it seems to make September a better month. So, yeah.
Well, that was my question. Now with the Obamacare debate, not to get off the Syria topic, but with Syria as well, do you find that when you come back, all of a sudden they've kind of seen the light, some of these representatives, when they've had the fingers plunged in their faces and said, you're not listening to us? You see a whole different mentality from your fellow co-workers in the House of Representatives?
Yeah, I think it's extremely helpful. And I'm looking forward to September when we're all back and doing that. And let me tell you, I really appreciate. I heard you substituting for Sean, and you're fantastic, and I really appreciate your perspective. I wish I were serving with you.
Oh, well, thank you. I'll tell you, Connie from your office is terrific. She's one of my favorites. You really picked a gem there. I'll tell you, you want an honest perspective with the edge on it, you go to Connie Hare. She'll tell it like it is. So, sir, listen, it's an honor. Thank you so much for taking the time.
It's my honor. Thank you so much, Dan. Appreciate it.
Okay, that was Representative Louie Gohmert representing Texas 1 and doing a fine job, I might add. Fan of his work. You want to hear the truth? He'll tell you the truth. He did a great job subbing for Sean Hannity last week. Folks, we're talking Syria. We have gotten every perspective, libertarian, conservative, liberal, moderate, Democrat, Republican, but I still want to hear from you. 888-630-9625. What do you think? Do we go in? Do we not go in? What is our national security interest? But I want to know the meat and potatoes. What's a real national security interest? No talking points here, folks. 888-630-9625. I'm Dan Bongino. Give me a call.